Welcome, everybody, to Breaking the Silence. You have a voice. I am your host, Lady V, and I want to welcome all of our viewers on Facebook today. We have a really great topic today. As usual, we're going to be talking about some juicy stuff. The topic for the day is going to be the dark night, the life of a narcissist. And I've been looking at a lot of things. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like my Facebook is like constantly popping up about narcissists. And I think Silvadia has something on her show called gaslighting. So I think the gaslight and the narcissist is one of the same. So I found it interesting. So we want to talk about it today. We welcome your comments. We want to welcome all of our Facebook viewers and our Caribbean jammers and everybody on YouTube, Instagram. Welcome. But before I get started, I want to introduce our other host, and I want to welcome Pastor Mel on the line. How you doing today?
I'm good. Doing
Good, good. And we want to welcome Dr. Isaac. How's it going there, sir?
Hello, good evening. How's everybody's doing?
Everybody's doing good. Good. Look like you in your car.
I am.
All right. All right. And we have the beautiful, wonderful Silvadia on with us. How you doing today, Silvadia?
Hey guys, I'm doing all right. Y'all doing all right today?
yeah.
Everything's
Good. Good to
good.
see you guys.
And last but not least, we have Reverend Jay. How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
It's going well. Thank you. So, I want to dive right into this topic because, again, I think that just doing some studies on my own, I've just really found this narcissist person to be quite interesting. And the reason I called it the Dark Night was because although I look at all of the traits of a narcissists live a very dark life. They live a very miserable life. According to doctors, according to counselors, they appear to be one thing, but they actually are something different. So I just want to talk about it a little bit today. Again, we welcome your comments, but let's go ahead and let's start. Has anybody ever had a relationship or anything with a narcissist?
Working.
Yeah.
What's that like?
You
Let's.
know something is wrong with them.
Oh yeah. It's a it. Let's just say I left without any second guessing.
Mm.
Um, they and you saying that they live a dark life? No. They do not, baby. They are some of the people in this world who people look up to. This particular person here was a VP at a company. He was a six-figure income person. Um, Everybody on the outside of the home thought he was this great person, and he is. Don't get me wrong. He has that great personality. He's very helpful. He's outgoing. But when it's time for him to have his way, oh my God, you are beneath dirt. You can't do anything right. You're they you He has a problem with the way you look for his weight
Superfi-
wise. Say that again, Pastor Mel.
that was the superficiality of his narcissism.
Yes, and he is not a protector to his victim at all.
Mm.
You can be right. You can It can be in black and white. You can prove to him that you did not do it. You can prove to him that he did do it. You can have a video camera and he'll continue to deny until you actually be foolish enough to believe, wait a minute, did I really see what I saw? Or did I read what I read? Like it made me so sick where one of your episodes I was saying that I had a stress attack, but I thought it was a heart attack. That's how ill I was behind dealing with that man at that time. That was back in 2014. But they are out here. They're in the church. They're at your job. They're inside your home. You name it.
But I
Mm.
think that when I say the Dark Night, The reason I say that is I don't know who watched the video, but all of the characteristics of a narcissist, although they appear to be very positive people about themselves, they like to talk about themselves, but a lot of their traits are cover-ups for their insecurities and their and the things that they lack. So they have to control and manipulate people in order to appear that there's something big, but they're actually this small. It's just that their victims have to really come forth and know what they're dealing with, because a narcissist will make you think that something is wrong with you when in all actuality is something wrong with them. So it's a control and manipulation thing. And when you go ahead, Pastor.
I'm sorry, finish up. I'm sorry.
And when you look at it, going back to something Silvadia said, they'll, and even in a conversation, they won't take ownership of anything because they're absolutely not able to. So they have to paint a picture that it's you. It is you, no matter what. They're not going to apologize because they're not capable of apologizing, because if they do something wrong, they're going to put it on the other person so that they don't have to take a picture or look at themselves. They have to say it's somebody else.
Yeah, and looking at this, because I did not know a narcissist and narcissism. Well, the narcissistic personality, there is a personality disorder, which I didn't know is only 1 to 3% who are actually diagnosed with it. But you do have a lot of people, and then with the narcissism, that's where it's a collection of pattern or behavior or their traits. And when I was looking at the one doctor, and like she was saying, Instagram actually gives you a platform for some of these people to actually be a narcissist, and it's really sad and scary. And then when she talked about the 7 different traits, it's real.
The number one thing, Pastor Mel, that would drive you crazy is the lack of empathy.
Right.
Because when you're sitting up there pouring your heart out, like, why did you do this to me? Why? And they looking at you like, you can cry your eyeballs till they dry, and you can beg them to stop doing whatever they're doing to destroy the relationship. And I ain't gonna say they're incapable, because anybody can change, but it definitely takes therapy to do it, and it definitely takes that person that's taking the steps to actually do it. But a person who's narcissistic, they can feel like, I'm gonna say like me, because I don't know how with your personalities and everything are. I know you guys are great people, but for me, I'm an empath, and it's different levels to an empath. Like some people, if you're an empath, you take on other people's feelings. I don't take on other people's feelings, but when I spoke to Pastor Melvin about this Sunday, like, I can walk in a room and I can feel the evil. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's been like that since I was a teen. I don't know how to explain it. But the other thing of it is, narcissistic men, they are hunters for people like me, an empath. Because now I'm a different type of empath. When I've been hurt so bad, where immediately when I feel like I'm involved with empath, I put my wall up and I walk away, because that's the only way you can deal with empath. You cannot make them change whatsoever. That you cannot make them feel sad that they broke your heart, or that. And another thing, narcissistic men, and I have to say men because I've never dated a woman. They are liars. They are cheaters. They put the blame on you. You name it. Jennifer asks, have we ever met anybody a narcissistic person that has changed? I've never met a person that has changed, but I have met two narcissistic people in my entire life. And if I tell you, the second one made me say, oh, wait, I recognized that behavior before, back in 2004, and you got that same behavior. And as much as you can love a person, I had to block them from my heart.
And this was really shocking, that narcissistic people, they flourish in the company. One thing she said, the people who are nice or agreeable, they get paid less than narcissistic people. And those narcissistic people, of course, they can be very antagonizing, which is really, really scary. Because another thing that she pointed out is how charming that they can actually be, and then it's like they'll flip the script on you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And one of the things that I thought that stood out, because I know quite a few narcissists, unfortunately. But one of the biggest things is their it's called grandiosity,
Yeah,
and how they exaggerate their sense of importance. Like
fan-
they love talking. You ever be in a room and a person just, I don't care what environment that they're in, they love to talk about themselves, like how great they are, and they exaggerate it. It doesn't just, it's not just like we can be talking about fish fry, and they all of a sudden become the expert in fish frying. If you're talking about we took a walk today, oh, I walked about 20 miles a week, they become the expert on every
Mm.
single
Oh
thing.
gosh.
Matter what you're talking about, they are the expert of that whole entire thing, and then they have to feel superior to others. That's why I say they live in a dark world, because they have to spend so much time exaggerating their greatness until nobody else matters, but they make up these things. It's like, I gotta be able to show the world how great I am. I want to stop right here and pause and welcome Dr. Myron and the beautiful Joy
Guys.
to the show. Welcome, guys. So, um, how do we deal with a narcissist in a relationship? Like,
You
what?
leave them. You leave them.
You-
I no, Reverend J. I'm being for real. Like, you cannot help a narcissistic person, man or woman. Narcissistic women, because but I did the research on it because I had to. How can I deal with this? It will break you, no lie to tell. I don't invite anybody in it with a woman or a man. Leave, because these people, you cannot pray. You can pray for them, but you you can't do it up under their wing. You're gonna have to get out of there. I don't know
oh yeah.
no other way. Like, you can help about, because for one, they don't know what caused it. Doctors do not, scientists do not know what caused it, but they do know it's hereditary, meaning it's traits of mom or dad that child picks up and carries on, and then as an adult, they turn it into whatever they want to turn it into. Like, it's like a control situation. But if you tell them, you're not gonna control me, you're not gonna tell me what to do, or if they see you trying to get away from them, they're going to soften themselves up until they get you back in. And once they get you back in, they're going to snatch you. To this day, my ex will still try to bribe me. That's what I call it, bribing, because it's all the sweet talking, or we can do this, we can do that, or try to give you money, whatever the case may be. But now we have a Dr. Myron on here. How you doing, Dr. Myron? He might can tell you, he's a counselor. All I can tell any woman, get out of the relationship.
Hey,
Jennifer asked a question. She said, would you say that narcissism is almost a God complex? It all depends on which stage or what sign that they're operating in, because the one lady actually talked about, she talked about entitlement, grandiosity, superficiality, chronic seeking validation, arrogance. And arrogance is a really, really big one.
Absolutely.
You're beneath them, they're above everybody else, and it's always putting others down to put themselves above.
yeah,
Well, I think
and a question I have we all displayed one of these traits at different times of our life?
I haven't, not none of
Yeah.
this.
I haven't.
Of course you're gonna say no. Of
No,
course you're gonna say just like
No,
no,
just
I
like
have
that. I can say
empathy. I have
no,
empathy
no,
for
no.
people.
I did not say it. I said have we all displayed one of these
Of these
traits
character
in
traits.
our lifetime? And I
no.
would
I
I
have.
would honestly say yes. I
Okay.
would honestly say
So name.
and actually meaning this.
No.
Just hear me out. Just hear me out. Saying that we may not have realized that we have displayed
No.
this one of these traits, but we've probably displayed it at some point in our life, especially when we've been trying to prove our point.
No.
Isaac, that well, in that case, you just did one of them because that's what that's what a narcissistic person will do. They would take what somebody else
So
said and put it back on that person.
okay,
So
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 again,
I love
I
it.
see, but look, I purposely did that to show just how
uh,
quick that you can display. No,
No.
I did that
it's
purposely just so
abuse.
you can display. Have we actually displayed one of these traits
No.
within our lifetime, Dr. Meyer?
Well, I wanted to address uh, um, Jennifer's question. Would you say that narcissism is almost a God complex? The word narcissism actually comes out of Greek mythology.
Mm,
The Greek god Narcissus is where the word comes from, and Narcissus was one of the Greek gods in Greek mythology, and he thought he was so beautiful that he loved no one, and he fell in love with himself when he looked at himself saw his reflection in a pool, right?
Mhm.
And so it's the sort of the catalyst there is that self-love is not problematic in and of itself, but when you can't not love another self, therein lies the problem. So yeah, it is a God complex because one puts oneself before anyone else. No real empathy. Others, anybody that you encounter them as your relationship is largely utilitarian. You're using them like a utensil, to meet your needs, to fill whatever those. And most people who come to narcissism or become narcissists, usually that happens because of some significant wounding and trauma during their formative years. A lot of people, some people come that way from abuse, from a neglect, which is a form of abuse, and just all manner of things. It's not so much organic or biological in nature, although some theorists think that it is, or consider that there may be a component, just like some people just totally lack empathy for others and are almost born sociopaths in a sense, but it's a complete love and consideration for no one other than oneself. And so that's like you with narcissistic personality disorder. Some people can exhibit some, all of us, I think, not all of us, but many people exhibit some traits that could be considered narcissism. A little self-absorption. Some people may be a little conceited, a little arrogant. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're a full-blown narcissist, but they could be a little full of themselves or a lot of full of themselves. Sort of just depends. So some people show those traits. The flip side is some of those traits of being self-concerned do have value. Self-preservation, being able to be
Mhm.
sustained. You gotta I've met people like in high levels of leadership and different things, and people say, "Oh, they're so arrogant, they're so conceited, blah blah blah." I've met people who say met President Obama, and I was like, "Oh, he's kind of on a personal level, he seemed kind of conceited."
sexy.
Well, you can't be the president of the United States without a little bit of self love,
No doubt.
Right.
Right, right.
Exactly.
However, if that self love, as in the origin of the term narcissist, means that you can't love another self, then and it's not the difference between, for me, the difference between love and lust is that love seeks to give and receive, where lust seeks to get. So for me, it's an extension of lusting. If you just want what you want, so it's going to make you feel good in whatever way, then certainly that can bring a person toward narcissism.
So I have a question. Like, I agree. I think everyone that is what you call successful, especially in high levels of life, especially present United States, you have to be somewhat, have some display some narcissistic personalities because it becomes a eat or be eaten. That's the way life works in the upper echelons of life. So I have a question for the experts here. Do you think, because as y'all was talking, I was thinking about Donald Trump.
Big narcissist.
Because everything you guys were talking about, a narcissist would do. It seemed like he displays. Would you say that he's a narcissist or just a liar?
He's a narcissist among a lot of
Narcissistic
things.
people do lie. That's one of their
Right.
number one traits. They are liars. And no matter if you put it right here and say I wrote down these 7 things that was on the video, as I did, I can put this in your back face and y'all can say I don't see it. That you didn't write that down. They will deny it even it's right there.
Or they'll try to make it where
it was your fault.
It's your fault, or they'll switch it. Like they'll turn it around and they'll make it seem like you're exaggerating or you're making a big deal out of what they're doing, and you know that what they're doing is wrong, but they'll try to make it seem like what they're doing is okay. One of the biggest
I heard of a lot of even just normal people, like say couples, if a person get caught cheating, they're they flip the script on the person. Oh no, the reason why I cheated was because you didn't do this or you did that, which in those cases, what they're saying is not really valid because it's probably extreme. But no, I agree.
I posted this today and come through with the data.
That's a person lying because they got caught cheating, and then they want to blame somebody else for doing what they really had in their heart to do or what they really wanted to do. So one thing with narcissism, it's a pattern or collection of pattern or a trait where you have the narcissistic personality disorder where and you have people who are narcissists who they exhibit the 7 traits, which one thing the doctor said she believed that there's actually more traits than that, but they just have not said it. But in a situation like that, no, those people, no, I cheated, I got caught, and they lie. Or think about people who are chronic liars. Oh, I got caught lying, and because you caught me lying, no, I'm gonna blame it on you. They want a reason or they want an escape, not to have the blame put back on them instead of owning up to it.
That's right. I posted something on my page today, and this is basically it hit right on to home. When it comes to a narcissistic person apologize, they won't say I'm sorry, and they will not follow in on changing their ways. They'll say that they'll change, but they don't. They find another way to get to what they truly want to get to. And this is what this meme says. It says, "You really hurt me." It says, he said, I didn't mean to hurt you. She said, "But you did." He said, "It wasn't my intention." She said, "I know you didn't mean to, but you did, regardless of your intention. You actually really, you acted really awful and it really hurt me. Can you just acknowledge it and apologize?" And he said, "But I didn't mean to." He never would say I'm sorry or that he would change. And that's what a narcissistic person do.
Okay.
It is so hard
I'm good
to
then.
say, you know what? I cheated. I lied. I did X, Y, and Z. And then when you screw up on anything, they want you to go start at alphabet A all the way to Z on how you did it, why you did it, and so on.
Right. And that's that's that arrogance because it comes off as dismissive. That's one of the traits of it. But when it breaks it down, because see, they can act a certain way, but when you look at their actions or what they do, it falls under one of those 7 categories. And they are the ones who actually have to admit that, wait a minute, I have narcissistic personality disorder, or they have to acknowledge it, want to change in order for that behavior to change.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to read, it says that they are superficial and exploitative relationships. Relationships are based on surface attributes and not the unique qualities of others. People are only valued only to the extent they are viewed as beneficial. That's pretty deep, you know? What
That's
you
why
Mm.
I said you cannot, with a narcissistic person, you cannot be 185 pounds and his preference is 115 pounds.
Oh wow.
Because even though he might say, I love you, I want to be with you, throughout that relationship, you're going to hear something about your weight, including, they ain't even got to say any words. They're going to make it a way that you get in that gym some type of way. And they not going to encourage you. No lie. They're not going to encourage you like, baby, I got you. Come on, baby, let's get this. They gonna, you, before you know it, you're gonna be in that gym noticing, wait a minute, I'm the only one working out. What is he doing? He ended up being your coach because
He's
he wants
coaching
to
you.
drop down 115 pounds. Hey, I'm telling you, Rev J, I'm telling you, man, I will run for cover. And man, I don't care how much I love him. I ain't going back.
But
so
at least recognize it.
Yes, ma'am, I recognize it. He could be Denzel Washington, but if he display that behavior, baby, I'm gone. It almost killed me.
so
It
what
did.
Mm.
is there a difference between, and I'm gonna anybody can answer this. Is there a difference between narcissists and gaslighting?
That's one of their that's one of the things that they do. It's
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry. Break down what the two are
Yeah.
because some people don't know.
okay. So gaslighting is when what we just been okay. So he might say what I just described to that mean. You know, like they you want them to say I'm sorry, but he'll say, but I didn't mean to. You know, just to keep you'll never get that word out of them. Or let's say if it's dealing with a relationship, they might say, you be like, baby, I don't feel comfortable with that girl. You know, I see how she look at you. Baby, we've been friends for 45 years. I've been knowing we grew up as kids. It ain't nothing. Next thing you know, close your ears, pastors. They screwing out of both trolleys.
The
That's
definition of
gaslighting.
gaslighting, no, gaslighting is the to manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity.
I just gave an example, Isaac. That you might have a female friend that your girl or your wife is questioning, like, babe, I see what I see. And then he's just steady trying to gas, baby. We've been friends for 50 years, though. We went to school together. We worked together. And next thing you know, 2 years later, you don't find out that they screwing the whole time. But
We
wait,
just a friend. She just
yeah. And then
Right.
you calling the female crazy, or you jealous, or you insecure. No,
yeah.
dude. I'm not insecure. You lying and you're a cheater.
Right. What they do is they try to twist your sense of what is
Fantasy.
reality. You see what's going on and you know that it is going on, but they try to come up with something else that it could be, and you know what's going on is what it really is. So it's kind of like, no, I'm not really. I saw the conversation, I saw the text messages, I saw this, I saw that, but that person, that narcissist is gonna go, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. That wasn't really what it was. No, it was somebody else I was conversating with. But I actually saw what you did, and they're still never going. The biggest thing is they're never going to admit what they did was wrong. And that's the scary thing about a narcissist, especially when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, because they're never wanting to say what I did was wrong. They may even say that they're going to try to improve on it or change it, but they to not be able to acknowledge that you're wrong or you apologize for it, that's a scary thing, because
Yeah,
they
they
think
find
that
other ways to they really don't want to change the behavior because it's like you given it's like I'm gonna give you like I'm not in denial. I'm a emotional eater. So when I'm upset or stressed and I eat, oh my God, they feel better than sex sometimes. And so for a narcissistic person, when you're dealing with them, it's like the person that they're with, they will do everything they can to actually smooth over the situation that's going on, but behind your back, they're actually finding a way to get to what their fix is. If he's cheating, he might give you the code. He might say, look at my phone. I ain't talking to nobody. He don't delete them messages, baby. Do you hear me?
The wrong email.
900 conversations before you got in his presence, honey. He is still
or change the name.
Yeah, right.
Listen, he had his
Popeyes.
the Reverend name. He had this female under the Reverend name, and then don't talk about the females that he was screwing at work, honey. Oh my God, it went from so you just going so I got to quit my job and can't bring the income coming in because you jealous. No, dude, because you screwing this lady. She's sending you pictures of vagina. Yeah, that's why. Oh my God. And so, but I know this is very dear to my heart, y'all. So I'm over talking tonight. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But I don't want to go without saying we have narcissistic women out there as well. Now, I don't know any, but I did take the time to do my homework. And 12 traits of narcissistic women are: she refuses to accept interpersonal boundaries. She takes pleasure in pain. She tries to ruin other relationships. She talks only about herself. She plays the victim card. She blames you for her mistakes. She cannot tolerate sight. She has no regards for your feelings. Now, I know some women like that. I truly do. And I don't like them either, because then when they damage a good guy, and then he come across me, somebody like me or Joy, and I'm saying me or Joy because we the single women. Joy has a man, but I'm just saying by marriage, we don't know whether or not married on here. But by the time that we come across that good guy that used to be a good guy, he's damaged, and now he's a narcissistic man. But I'm gonna let you guys talk, because
so can a person? I want to hear from Dr. Myron. Can a person cause a person to become narcissist?
Not in adult life. When you encounter somebody as an adult, and you're an adult, that's already formed in them. Generally speaking, that happens, early in development. Again, there's wounds, abuse, and neglect, and that kind of thing that's happened. One of the core components of being a narcissist is having a very fragile sense of self, a very fluid sense of self. So, one element of it is, they have a hard time making their mind up about who they are, or figuring that out. And it shows up. And, if they're a pure narcissist or a true narcissist, it not only shows up in romantic relationships, it shows up in every kind of relationships and every environment in which they live, whether it's work, recreation, or interpersonal relationships. But at the end of the day, no, somebody can't, as an adult, somebody can't make somebody a narcissist. But how you interact with your children can create a narcissism in them, most definitely. If you lack boundaries, if there's abuse, boundaries are really, really important in that. If there's abuse, if there's neglect, of all types, then certainly, that's a blueprint to create a narcissist. And it can happen relatively early, especially the earlier the neglect is experienced or the abuse is experienced, then that child's sense of self is never formed. So some, like a pure narcissist, they don't know who they are, so they're always, but in part of being a human being is, we all have this innate desire to survive, right? So part of a narcissist's existence is survival, right? And so if you don't know who you are, you're not clear who you are, then you basically, it's like being an emotional leech. You got to take the life out of everything and everything that you encounter, right? And so, because you don't have a clear understanding of who life is for you and yourself, so they a pure narcissist can go through life just trying to, almost like a vampire, like an emotional vampire, sucking the blood out of everybody and leaving them hollow or dead, and then going on to the next victim.
Oh, wow. So Joy, would you say a narcissist has low self-esteem?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
very
believe,
fragile sense of self.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joy.
No, I agree. They have very low self-esteem. That's the reason why they need all of the validation, the consistent validation. Now, I believe a healthy valid in relationships, healthy validation is necessary, as especially pertaining to women. I know a lot of women who go out and seek it from other people. If you have women, your wives and stuff, and they out on social media putting up butt pics, they doing it for some type of a validation of who they are as a woman. So I think a healthy sense of validation is important in every relationship. But if someone who needs it, like, oh well, no, you didn't tell me this today. Oh no, and they call you, why you didn't tell me I was pretty before you left. Do you think I'm pretty? Do you think I now that is excessive? And I think with a lot of the traits that they have, some of it can be, except for the lack of empathy. I mean, most human beings have empathy. If you're born without a lack of empathy, then there's a problem. I mean, that's why serial killers are made.
There you
But
go.
but I think that if there's a like with Minister Isaac, when he said have some people displayed some of those traits throughout their lives, I think within learning yourself, within learning how to be with around other people, we may have found ourselves doing some of these traits to kind of find out our identity of who we are as people. I know a lot of times as children, you may have had a sense of entitlement, especially if you're like me. I'm the baby of the family and I was the girl. So for a long period of my life, I felt entitled because anything I want, I've always gotten. I never really had to say much except for I want it. And it was like, I dream of Jeannie. I want it. There it goes. It appears. But as I got older, I had to learn that that's not life and that no one owes me anything. But I think those are things that have to develop within a person as they go.
Yeah, Jennifer just great point, Joy. Jennifer just asked a question, and I was like, yes. One of the things about our development is just like it takes two people to create a human being biologically. In our social development, it takes at least two people to really help because you're always conscious that you came from two people, and so
Mhm.
the question always is, where are those two people in my life? Right.
Mm.
All right. And the pouring in to you from those people. So if one person is absent, for whatever reason, certainly if there's an abandonment issue, that's a real that they just don't engage. Certainly that's an emotional wound. And I've worked with, one of my areas of work is with men and with brothers, and I've worked with a lot of men, but I see it on women too, that they just didn't get that love and validation and connection and relationship with their father, and so that leaves a big hole in who they are. As a man, then your relationship with your same-sex parents, with your dad, with your father, is part of your self-definition and identity, and that's one of the key things that narcissists lack. As Joel was saying, they're extremely fragile, right?
Mm.
And so, yeah, even if that mother was there doing all that she possibly could, that still doesn't always, in every case, fill the void that is left by the other parent that's just not engaged. If there's a valid reason why that parent is not there, then that can be helpful. But if and I know lots of young people, people, period, my age, whose parent, one or the other, abandoned them for whatever reason, and they have these huge holes and a lack of sense of self.
I have a question.
There was one other point I wanted to make. One of the
Right.
things with a narcissism, that's why people have to be really careful, is when you do pull that cover off of them, then they
Mm.
move into what we call a narcissistic rage.
Mm.
Right? When you break that, when you rip that facade off, when you pull it back, so when you confront them with their lies and they don't have wiggle room, and then so a lot of the situations where we see, people on both sides of the coin getting abused or even murdered is because that person has a deep, and when it gets pulled off, it's like a breaking of the psyche, a breaking of the ego, and they rage because they feel their literal self
Yeah.
is threatened. and they go,
Oh wow.
and so, people shooting, killing, stabbing, whatever they do, choking, all of that. And so one has to be careful, you know, I say when you run into one, if they're not a recovering narcissist, because you can recover from that, right? I just
Right.
believe in that there's hope for anything. You can recover, but it has to be intentional. But if you run into one that's not in recovery, then you need to, 180 degrees and, young MC bust a move.
So, do you think that narcissists have great potential to be cheaters?
Of course, because they need constant validation, whether it's George described
Yeah,
or somebody said,
they not good in relationship. You'll see a
because they need
history of
constant validation
divorces and
24/7. All the
broken
time they
relationship.
need validation. So no
Yep.
no no one human being can meet all of your emotional needs, right? As a
Mm,
matter of fact, it's unreasonable to think that
yeah.
another human being can meet all of your emotional needs. As there's some needs, that emotional needs that you need to meet for your damn self, right? Self-validation, right?
Self
And so
validation.
that's one of the things that narcissists cannot do is effectively and healthily self-validate, right? And
Mhm.
so that's why they're always looking for that kind of validation in relationship in the eyes of others. Just like Narcissus, the Greek god saw his reflection in the pool and fell in love with himself. They're actually looking for themselves in the lives and the hearts and eyes of others. So they need people to reflect to them who they are. So, like in the case of some narcissistic men, if your self identity is that you're a big, strong man and that's who you want to be, right? That's who your ego says you need to be, then you need to, get that validated in all of your encounters with people in general, but particularly with women, right? The flip side of that is with women. If your idea of and your idea of who you are and you want to be is a beautiful, attractive, woman who can captivate a man, then you need that all the time, right? And so you're going to get it. But you can imagine that nobody's got time to give you all of themselves to you. Everybody
Mm.
needs some time for themselves. Jesus stepped away from the crowd and went to the garden, right? Everybody, got to have some time for themselves. So once they drain you and you're empty and you're not giving them what they need, then they're going to go to somebody else.
And you
Yeah.
And
know,
then once they
on that
finish
note
with
right
them, they're
there,
going to go to
Dr.
somebody else. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
You are 100% correct. You said it before I could say it. Once they have used you up, meaning when you have actually found out who they truly are and a way of what they're doing to you don't bother you anymore, they don't need you no more.
Mm-hmm.
They don't you like you ain't no fun because it's a high to abuse people the way they do. So
Mm.
if you have learned how to control your emotions, like you don't give a damn no more, like okay, go and get you 2 or 3 O's, I don't care. Like you when you don't care, like dang, it ain't fun no more to them. So they gonna find them another victim, and that's where their relationship pattern comes. That's why they cannot stay faithful because if you have learned them to how to deal with them, they're gonna keep it moving to the next victim.
That's that
Mm-hmm.
chronic seeking validation. And then, Dr. Myron, when you talked about that tendency of rage, it's uncontrolled rage, is what they
Mm.
actually deal with. And it's because of their insecurity.
Hmm. It being a literal, just like if somebody, walked into a room, walked up to you and was getting ready to stab you or hit you, and you have this fear, that you're not going to live anymore, and then you're willing to fight and do whatever it takes to survive physically, that's translated to them emotionally. So if you strip back the cover for them, their sense of self, is they feel like that they're going to be destroyed, they're going to be erased, they're going to literally be killed on an emotional level, and they can't make the distinction between that. Their limbic system kicks in, or kicks off in their brain, and they're ready to. That's why people snap, when they're threatened. If you and I've seen it. I've seen it with people. I've seen it. I had a stalker one time, right?
Oh gosh.
you know straight up crazy, right? And actually never dated. There was never romantic. She was like literally crazy, and she was like coming, and after about 3 or 4 weeks I was like, no, don't even call me anymore. And it was like somebody hit a light switch. She was like, oh, you wouldn't even be my friend. And then I had to call the police.
Oh
My
god.
cousin Johnny was getting ready to come down here from Colorado, once he got out of the penitentiary, and take care of it for me, right? I think I think we need to remove some of the gender stuff from it, because a narcissist is a narcissist regardless of what their
Yeah.
gender is. There
Yeah.
may be some subtle manifestations that are different between genders, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, those traits, and those characteristics are universal in terms of gender. It may get lived out just because of how men and women are socialized, differently, in cultures, but at its heart, it's the same. It's a
Mm.
abject lack of a sense of self, and needing others to fill that.
And
I
a
think
lot
that
of
one thing that
narcissists
I
are
realized
also
with the
leaders.
narcissist, though, they do not like to be rejected. So
Mm-mm.
when you reject them, and I think that that is something that people need to understand, because everybody has a weakness. Narcissists are not above God. And the
They
ones that
think they are.
I have dealt with, the one thing that they do not like is they don't like rejection, and they don't like your silence. You
Mm.
With a narcissist, you can't argue with them because they want that attention. They want to know that they are drawing you into their emotions at all times. They need to have that sense of validation. Oh, I got you. Oh, I'm making you jealous. Like if you see what they're doing, oh, who's that? What are you doing? Where are you going? And they need that. But when you don't feed into that and you just become silent, then it irritates them, because now it's like, why are you not saying anything? Well, I had someone that I was in a relationship with that was a narcissist, and the biggest thing was they used to say, you act like you don't care. I don't. You act like you don't give a damn. I don't. And
Well,
it would drive
that's
that person crazy, because now I'm no longer allowing you to draw me into your foolishness. And it really got to the place where it more drove that person crazy, because they could not break me. They were
Right.
like, oh
And
my
that's
goodness.
when I know I said walk away, but if you choose to stay in the relationships, in the relationship, one of the things that drive a narcissistic person crazy is silence, because they
Mm.
get off
yeah.
on arguing. They have to have closure. Like they cannot stand it if they wondering what you're gonna do or what are you thinking if you've been in an argument. They have
I
to
But
have.
they're
I
controllers.
think
They're
I think
controllers.
Lady V answered Jennifer's question though. At least from my perspective, if you encounter like a pure narcissist or a real narcissist, you can't fix them, right? And
No,
I mean, no, it really anything that anybody got going on, you can't fix it. That's
No.
between them. I always tell people, Jesus can't save you if you don't let him save you.
Mhm.
Mm.
right.
Where you got to let
Right.
him save you. He said, "Whosoever you got to let." So you can't. So in answer to Jennifer's question, my perspective is, you don't need to, depending on how deep you in a relationship, you ain't need to try to break the news to them and all. You just need to shake the dust off your feet.
Little by
And,
little,
and get
move
the
away.
heck
Little
out
by
of the
little.
relational town. You ain't got time to fix them and waging battle and because then if you feel like you engage them and fight with them or struggle with them, then you need to check yourself out, and why
Yeah.
you gotta try to fix them or get them back or whatever, instead of just leaving that alone, because it ultimately ain't gonna do you no good. So
That
when
is,
you
and
recognize
like
that,
that is so true, Dr. Myron. One thing
be
that
like,
people
see ya.
we spend a lot of time, and believe it or not, we have, all of us have had more narcissists in our life than a little. And the best thing you can do is you can leave them alone, because trying to convince a narcissist, and I know who Jennifer's talking about, trying to convince that person that they are who they are, they're not going to accept it. They're
No.
not. You can sit and talk to them all day long. Now, you don't even have to use the word narcissist. You can just say you're controlling, you're this, you can run it all the way down, and they're going to look at you, because the one thing that they're not capable of is accepting
Right.
their own flaws, their own ways. They're going to argue you down. So the best thing you can do is you have the right to remain silent. And no
Right.
matter what they say, no matter
Right.
what they do, I'm like, whatever. And I can live with a narcissist. I really can, because I have the ability to treat you like you are a piece of furniture. I will ignore
Well,
you.
you better
I
than
will
me, because I don't want to live with one.
You better
You
say it,
can't
Dr. Myron.
you can
I can
trust them.
be. I have lived with a
And
narcissist, and for me, I am a great person for a narcissist because I have the ability to act like you don't even exist in my presence.
But why
So
would you even want that misery though? Like,
no, it's not misery because if you have a child that's that way, trust me, I've lived with them. If you have a child that is a narcissist, you have to ignore their way.
Mm.
You have to act like it's, even though they're your child, it could be your mama, it could be, because now when you talk about your family members, we're not talking about somebody that you in relationship with. We're talking about somebody that you just can't easily just say get out
Yeah,
at the moment.
that's valid.
You
Yeah,
have
other
to
relationships.
deal with them in your strength.
are we
So
talking about a child? Or are we talking about an adult child?
we
She's
talking
talking-
about you can have a teenager. I had a teenager that was a narcissist till this day. But the only way I could deal with him, I had to remain. So even when he did something, he would want me to get all in my emotions and I would remain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then there's a difference when you have. I'm sorry. There's a difference when you have. So some relationships are less optional than others.
Right.
Right.
So you have a familial relationship. Then you can, and depending on what the person is doing. So you can deal with somebody in a familiar relationship more who's dishonest than somebody in a romantic relationship, because generally speaking, a romantic relationship is more optional. Right. And so
Exactly.
it's, so like in terms of that dialogue, I ain't trying to convince you of nothing. It's like, hey, short conversation. This ain't working for me. I'm out. And then, then you go on. In familiar relationship, then you have to, possibly, certainly do some more of those kind of things, but always, always confronting somebody if you have to be in relationship with them with the facts, with the truth, and don't give them wiggle room, and always encourage them to get some therapy.
Right, because when it's somebody that you can't just say get out,
Right.
you have to now formulate your own way of dealing with them.
Well, you can adopt what the white people do. The white people, they put them in them group homes.
You have always, but the thing is, when you talk about, because every relationship is different, you may have a narcissist that's a mom, so you can't just take your mom and put your mom in the nursing home because she got to be sick in order for you to do that. But there are techniques.
That is a sickness.
It's a sickness, but it's not something that they will actually be. You will be able, because first of all, your mom got to be able to not be in her total right mind, or your dad or your child. So there are ways that you can deal with a narcissist when you're in a relationship with them, then they need to kick rocks. But when you talk about somebody that is not that optional, you have to deal with them in a certain way, and silence is the best thing. You don't indulge in their foolery, and you leave them alone. You just have, and they already know that they did something, because they're going to go, why you not talking?
I think if you can't put them in a group home, there's two things that I say when how do you deal with a narcissist if you have to be in some kind of relationship with them, is truth and boundaries.
Yes.
Truth,
there you go.
Truth
There
all
you
the time,
go.
and then maintain boundaries. There's certain things you can and can't do with me, to me or say to me. Those are boundaries, and always confront them with the truth. And then that way they can't narcissist you, if you will. And I make that up.
And
I think you guys shared a good point about a parent could be actually narcissist. So I have a question. I think it'd be helpful if we can share about how would a child go about dealing with a parent that is displaying the narcissist behavior, especially a young child that's at home. Now, if you're an adult, you can just walk away. But I'm talking about a young child that's at home.
To seek some counseling support from some healthy adults, whether they do it in whatever environment, family, church, school, go to the counselor, and, get some help, because one of the things that's, we always talk about it in religious terms as generational curses, but narcissistic parents create narcissistic adults, because they they make their children narcissists, because you can't grow up in that milieu, in that environment, and not have that stuff get on you, because it skews your sensibilities and sense of self, who you are, and so that's why it's oftentimes perpetuated from one generation to another generation, because nobody sees it, and then breaks it. And it's really hard for children, because again, the root causes of narcissism um, are usually experienced in the kid's life between 0 and say 5 years old.
Mm.
Certainly 0 and 8. you know so sometimes that stuff is set, and then when it
Yeah.
happens that early, it's really really hard, because from a neurological standpoint, your brain synapses are being created, so your brain is being formed around emotional experience, right? Not just cognitive experience, but emotional experience. So your response and reaction to different things, perceptions and stuff. I mean, you think about it. Sometimes even as a grown person, you can see something that reminds you of something that happened in your childhood, and you feel it viscerally.
Mm.
You can even smell something, and again, our senses pick up and everything. And so sometimes you can smell something, and it'll remind you of an experience, and you can have a visceral sense of fear, trepidation, or the other side, joy. So when those things happen, in early childhood, that's why it's so important. I always encourage anybody who's ever considering having a child, try to be as healthy as you can, be on the constant lifelong trajectory of working on oneself, healthy and wholeness, so that you don't perpetuate this next generation. And
Well,
it takes intentionality and effort.
one of the things I want to go back to Jennifer's question then, because
Uh-huh.
that's a good point, Reverend J. So then I believe, going based off of what Dr. Myra just said, because a child is innocent and the child doesn't really understand the traits of a
Mhm.
narcissist. They don't know that their parent is a narcissist, but their family members who do know the signs and the traits. So then I believe then maybe the narcissist does need to be exposed, because if you don't bring it to the attention, now you got this child growing up with this narcissistic parent. Okay. So now this child is thinking that everything that they do is wrong. And so now the pattern, the traits keep going on and on, because now this child is going to be fighting for attention and blah, 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 blah. But when you explain to them, you know what, this is really what you're dealing with. When you let the rest of the family members know, hey, this is what, because this is not something that a lot of African Americans talk about in their
That's
home. When you
right.
say narcissist, we just started hearing this word. Now we've heard of control, manipulation, but narcissist is a little bit different. I think it goes back to something that Dr. Isaac said. He was like, "Well, have we all had some kind of trait or two?" It's a difference. So when you talk about it as a disorder, a lot of people don't really know what they're dealing with. So do you not expose the person? Do you not say, you know what, I'm gonna call it out what it is? Because a lot of times we don't call things out to just expose the person so that they'll know, hey, we know we're not going to deal with it, but we know at least what we're dealing with.
All I got to say is sometimes when you hear somebody say, girl, if you want to go with that, if you want to, you might want to take heed to that. Trust me. You might want to take heed to that. But with the children, look, the parents that abuse children emotionally, physically, and like they can't feel, when they can't feel, like you don't know that hurt that baby when you beat them with a water
Mm.
hose or a pan, or what about the in the media when we see kids who were starved to death and things like that. If you look up the definition of psychopath and narcissistic personality, they go almost hand in hand. The only difference is a narcissistic person does not kill and a psychopath does.
And
Um,
narcissistic people kill people all the time.
well,
Yeah.
I'm saying when you hear it in the media, you don't hear, oh, a narcissistic person.
Right, right.
You hear psycho, you hear that instead, but they're almost identical because you can't feel, and anytime that you cannot feel an emotion, you have to question yourself, what is wrong with me? Like now, don't get me wrong, I'm a person that can go to a funeral and not cry, but it's probably someone that's not dear to my heart. But if you can go to a funeral and not shed some type of tear or emotion or something, Or if you're a chronic cheater, let me take that word out, because a narcissistic person will take, oh, you said chronic. That's another thing they'll do. They'll take one word that you said in their whole sentence and say, oh, that's not me. So let me say, a person who constantly cheats all the time and just
Habitual.
yes, they just cannot stop. You might want to check with your therapist, see what's going on.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Well, and that's not to mention even, if it, if their narcissistic personality disorder is coupled with some other kind of personality disorder too, and then you get, you get multiple layers, and that can be really, really challenging to deal with. A lot of times, like we were talking about, it's a challenge for the families. Is so if you have a parent that says has 3 kids or 4 kids, right? And so it's a good chance that then that parent's narcissistic. It's a good chance all of those kids are going to be impacted by that, right? And so then they're adults. So as we're talking about, okay, well, the family, so you can have a whole family system, right? So there's no haven for the next generation, because every aunt and uncle, everybody who's part of that circle is nuts too. I'm sorry, I know I'm being kind of frivolous with that, but it is. And so what happens with the system? Hopefully somebody in the system, but that's why it's really sad. And of course, for our community in particular that struggles with accepting the challenges and getting therapeutic help, it's really sad, because those things get perpetuated, and that impacts the community overall. Because then when you don't have healthy relationships in families, then you don't have a strong community. And if you don't have strong communities, then ultimately as a people, you're as a people, you're weaker. You're less able, because of all of this brokenness and all of these fractures. So that's why it's always so important, at least from my perspective, particularly for the faith community, which is such a part of the fabric of who we are as African Americans, to really be on the forefront of, helping people move toward wholeness and health. And it's always been sad for me that, actually the Black church has been the least helpful in supporting and promoting, therapeutic and psychotherapeutic interventions for people, which is pastors just said, well, just go pray. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
You know what? You are so right. That's all I've ever heard. Just pray about it. Pray for him.
We're going to pray on a recent
and it does,
we're going to read
because you don't know what you're dealing with. That's true. I have one more question before we
I'm sorry, I get all fired up in the church. I spend too much time with church niggas.
Can
sorry, forgive me.
2 narcissists live together?
Oh, hell yeah. It's gonna be a
party.
A mess.
It's gonna be a mess. But I see it all the time. You probably have seen it too. Hell yeah, they can live together, but it's gonna be, you don't want to get close. It's gonna be toxic.
Very much so.
As a matter of fact, now the flip side is they'll get along better. The two of them will do better than a non-narcissist and a narcissist. Remember when I talked about the equation for relationships, that relationships are complex. So, you want to be as whole as you can going into a relationship, and you want that other person to be as whole as you can. So if you're a half a person and you're a half a person, this is not simple math. You can't, 50.5 plus 0.5 equals a whole. But that's simple math. Relationships are complex. And so if you multiply a half times a half, what do you get?
A whole?
No, not multiplication.
No.
You still get, what is it, point?
You get a quarter.
25, a quarter.
So then the relationship that you create as a half a person and a half a person, the quality of that relationship is going to be less than if you by your damn self.
Yeah, that's true.
And Dr. Myron brought up church. Let me tell you something. They in there with the halo around their head, baby. Don't let and they know the Bible like the back of their hand. Don't let
shackles around everything else.
In church every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Monday through Sunday. Look,
I just like to bring my shackles out up front,
baby. Woo! Hey, my abuser told me. Listen, they are so good at getting you in up under their wing. And I remember breaking down when we went to his family church. And that was the first time I had been to church in a long time. And by the time we went to church, I was already comfortable with him. He had already made me feel like I was safe. And then I remember, you know, when they get to singing and the Holy Ghost hit you and everything, it's like everything just started pouring out. So I broke down and cried. That's something he rubbed me on my back. So in my mind, I'm thinking he rubbing me on my back. You know, he gonna console me. That nigga told me, you need therapy.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. If you want to go to a place where you can find a large percentage of narcissists in a particular population, you go to a pastor's conference or convention or meeting.
Absolutely.
If you want to see a high percentage of that particular population gathered together that are freaking narcissists, you go to a meeting of religious leadership. And I don't care what the denomination or faith group, you know, Christian, Buddhist, Muslims, Jewish, or whatever kind of Christian you want, Catholic, whatever, you know.
Look how many cults are developed. They are developed by leaders who are narcissistic people. Like they can get you to believe anything. My God, today they can get you to believe anything. So you have to know the word for yourself.
I think it is.
But first off, you have to know yourself.
You have to understand that a lot of times
know yourself.
With leadership, period, comes charisma. And go back to something that I think it was Reverend Jay asked with our former president. You know, you have to have a certain amount of charisma and I'm not going to say self-esteem.
He's just a liar.
Arrogance.
He's just a liar with a stage.
So when you look at leadership, effective leaders. Now, I'm not talking about these other. I'm talking about these real deal. These walk in the room and they think they think all of that about themselves. They operate. The only way they know to operate is they got to woo people into their world. They have to convince you that they are higher than God. They have to convince you that they know everything. That keeps you from having a relationship with God. So throughout the years, leaders have been some of the most creative, controlling. I'm talking about spiritually. Look at the Pope. You know, these people convince people to take their clothes off. They act in all kinds of sexual immoralities and everything, because in leadership, they kind of operate just like the devil.
Well, no, I think in leadership, leadership itself, you have to be strong. You can't lead people if you're weak. And of course, if you're a spiritual leader, you have to believe in what you're saying. If not,
you have to know. You have to live what you're saying. You have to believe what you're saying, but you also have to live what you're saying.
No, look at this.
Exactly.
No, I'm saying this. Look at this. You have to believe what you're saying, because you got to stand in front of people to not convince them, but share what you believe. Now again, I think Dr. Myron says this. You don't have to worry about narcissists. You should worry about yourself, because if you know you, they won't be able to trip you up. People who get tripped up by popes or by any other preachers, it's not the preachers. It's they have some other issues that they have not got a grip with.
They're looking for answers. They're looking for answers to the self, Jay. They're looking for answers to the self and someone else. Right.
Yes.
Now, somebody else can help you get some understanding, but the real answer to who you are is within you.
Inside you.
And for example, whenever you're doing, whenever you're doing, whether you're a born leader or you're good at it, just like R. Kelly, he is very charismatic. He got women do all types of things, and they say he even brainwashed them. But again, that came. They fell in love with. They allowed themselves to be captivated by him and disregard all their morals. Even parents, because we got to blame the parents. Even parents will take, knowing what he's been through, will take their children to be introduced to him. They disregarded all their morals, all their different safeguards you would do normally to a person that had been alleged to do something before, and put their children in that environment. Again, yes. Yes, the leaders are, leaders, of course, are more susceptible to be narcissistic because you're constantly trying to first make yourself believe what you're saying is true, and then you gotta try to convince other people. And it's easy for a person to get caught up in that between being normal and then become narcissistic.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't
you don't
I
what?
don't think that is more convincing. I think that leadership is modeling and leading people. It's actually being that model in front of people. I think that the problem is, yes, you get up and you're trying to convince people. And I'm not talking about just spiritual leaders. I'm just talking about leadership,
Yeah.
period. When you sit and you talk about, go back to some of the things that we just experienced with our just in politics. People get up and they say some really great things and they're trying to convince people, but people need to be more action oriented than anything. Whether it's you're living with a narcissist or you have a narcissist as a leader or whatever the case may be, I'm more moved by your actions. And then the second part of that is, who is the I'm going to say the weaker person? Is it the narcissist or is it the person that they're fooling? Because a lot of times a person can't make you do anything
Right.
except for you let them. So when I hear people say that, I've experienced a narcissist, which I have, but you don't get to. I'm not going to be in your life for a very long time if I know that you're not.
You can't say that because I'm what my
Well, I can say that for
abuser
me.
did
I can't
was
wait a
for
minute.
an
I
entire
can say that.
year.
I
I
can
thought
say
this.
that. I can say that for myself. Now I'm only speaking for me
Yes,
because
it
I
depends
can't
on the
speak for
person, most definitely.
I can't speak for everybody. I can say that because I've been in a relationship and I know the traits, it is very difficult for a narcissist to be in my life. Only
Now it
because,
is for me. Now that I know the traits, but before I did not know the traits and had not dealt with the narcissist before, he fooled me for an entire year to the point where he proposed to me. I got the ring and everything, and I'm thinking on this Disneyland trip, like, where the heck did this person come from? Who are you? Like
Mhm.
it's oh my god, that was the most scariest moment in my entire life. It's very scary. So they can. It's not about they cannot fool you because babe, they are so patient. I think sometimes they can outweigh God. Sometimes that's how patient they are. Like y'all don't understand. Y'all don't understand. I pray nobody ever have to go through that, man or woman, because it is so scary to the point where you see at least 3 or 5 of the 9 to 12 traits that's out there that clarify you as being a narcissistic person. When you see just a few of those traits, you're like, oh, deuces. No, I ain't gonna be able to do you, boo.
Yeah, sort of back to the, religious community piece. I've done a lot of work with my denomination, and have sat on committees and actually provided um, counseling to pastors who've had problems because of their narcissism. And one of the things that we do in our ordination process is we assess people that they have the gifts for ministry and that they're fit for ministry. Right. Those are two different things. So you can have the gifts. You could be charismatic. You could be a great speaker, great singer, or any of those things, a great, organizer, a lot of those things that it would take, to build a faith community, to do that kind of thing, even be compassionate to some degree. But if you're not fit, if you're not whole, if you haven't been in a process of healing, those kind of things, then you end up getting ordained in our process because you're not fit, because those gifts that you have where you talk and you do things and people are like, you share hope, you because I mean, being a preacher and being up in front of folks every week is like being a rock star, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
It's like
yeah,
you talk about the affirmation and all of that, boom, boom, boom. So it could be, people can get intoxicated, and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And if you're, and then people in your congregation, they'll open themselves up to you. They'll make themselves
Yep.
vulnerable to you and give and do all kinds of things. And if you're not fit,
Yep.
then you can, those same gifts that you have that can do really good, you can do profound damage into the lives of
That,
individuals, families, and communities,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, and
And
yeah,
so for
that's
me,
true.
whether it's whatever the faith community is, whatever group that they're part of, if they don't have a process for assessing, particularly the fitness of a person to be a pastoral leader, you
Mhm.
know,
Mm.
and if that faith group doesn't require routine and regular training. In my denomination, every 2 years we got to go through boundary training to reaffirm and
hey,
all of those kind of things to because people are human beings, and they'll come in, and a lot of people come into ministry out of their own brokenness.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and another thing I forgot to add this, that narcissistic people, they can show empathy in the public eye towards other people, but
Oh
not
yeah.
their victim. That, like, the person
Mhm.
that's close to them that they're victimizing, they can't you like, I didn't see him any empathy from him, but um someone else, I be looking at him sometimes like, how the hell did that happen? Like, you don't have an emotion bone in your body, but oh my God, y'all don't even understand that.
Oh
No,
no, I
I
didn't
think
see it,
that I
sister.
think
I didn't
that
see it.
definitely I've been there, but I think that the thing is I had to go back and I had to see what was going on in my life that I
Mhm.
even allowed that person in my life, because that I think is very important for people moving forward. You may not recognize what it is at first, but you have some people, they've been with multiple people in their life that are narcissists. So with people that are that way, you now have to step back and so go back to a self-evaluation of yourself, and no, hear what I'm saying. For me to allow someone that's a narcissist to be in my life, then that means that there was something going on with me
No,
that
ma'am.
allowed that person
No,
to
ma'am.
continuously control and manipulate me. Because
No,
it starts with me. That's
no,
that's with anything. If you have an abuser
no.
that is abusing you, and that
So,
person is beating on you, or that person is hitting on
can,
you, or that
V.
person is cheating
Mm-mm.
on you,
So
I
what are you saying, Silvada? What are you saying?
Before I let him in my life, I was working two jobs, raising my children, enjoying life. I was happy. He came in with all the smooth charm and Denzel Washington moves. I ain't had no stress attacks. I was cool, calm, and collected. I was good. So, matter of fact, I had been single for 7 years before I let him back in my life. He was somebody I
Back.
knew before. He never displayed
Let
anything
me
like,
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So did y'all date before?
yes, we dated
Okay.
before, but
Okay. And wait, let me finish.
we
Slow down,
dated
slow
when
down,
we were
slow down, slow
younger.
down, slow down, slow down, slow down. So when y'all dated before, why did y'all break up?
We were younger. We were young.
No, but no, I understand you were young, but what happened
Because
that broke you up?
we broke up because he lived long distance. He lived in Dallas, Texas. I lived in Longview, Texas. He was in
Okay.
college as well. So we were just too young we didn't know anything. I wouldn't even say we
So
dated
let me,
before.
but yeah, I understand that. But then what happened? You keep saying you're too young. What happened? Did y'all just decide we don't want to be together? Was there infidelity at that time? What happened?
No,
Oh,
no.
so y'all just decided it ain't gonna work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
was
so
raising
then he
two
came
children
back, and then he came back
as an
to
adult man,
as an adult man, and
had
then
his
what
life
happened?
together for us. And then we just started dating. And we
Okay,
were
so
just,
y'all started dating, and then when did you recognize that something was wrong?
at Disneyland. We
Okay,
dated.
no, no. So
How
what
long was
happened?
that?
Not what day or time, but what happened that you realized something was wrong?
Mm,
So what happened was, it had to do with my daughter, and with my daughter, he did not take up for my daughter like with his sister. And I'm like, and to make a long story short, this is my daughter. Who I'm trying not to name names, but
Okay,
anyway,
don't
he
do
did
that.
not take up for my daughter, and so I'm meaning just simple thing like a seat. It was a misunderstanding with a seat at the restaurant, and so I didn't want to speak like,
So,
I
but
know
what
my.
happened? What happened? So at the restaurant, what happened?
He let his sister go completely off. He did not protect me or my daughter at all. And at that moment, I watched the entire week how he He wouldn't open the door for me. He would be nasty. He would cuss at me. You
Okay. And
name it.
so that happened at Disneyland, you said?
Yes. And I'm
Okay, and
like,
y'all had been
who are
y'all
you?
so y'all had been dating each other for how long at that point?
A year.
Okay. And then so after that happened, then what did you see after that?
Well, I broke up with him on the way back to Texas through a
Okay.
text message, and
Okay.
I didn't.
And
I didn't
so
know he
that
was
behavior
like that.
was indicated to you that he was a narcissist?
No. So this is what. So we met. He on his way back to Dallas to drop his sister off and her family. I guess he read my text, and then that's when he started. Yeah, this and that and all that kind of
What's
stuff.
that
So
mean?
I
I don't
said,
understand that. Yeah, this and that. Be precise. What happened?
A lot of cuss words happen.
Okay,
A lot
so
of cuss words happen.
all right.
So then after that, a little time calmed down, and then we met at Applebee's. And when we met at Applebee's, all heck broke loose.
Mm.
If I tell you, oh my God, we gonna do if we do after conversation after this, I can tell you the details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
and my
one
whole
of the
point was
things that, but
because you were
my
saying some
whole
things
point.
yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me be quiet. I'm gonna shut up.
Give me 1 second, Dr. Meyer.
No.
My whole point was not the initial. What I said was there are times where we bring people into our life and we don't know what they originally are. What happens is when you bring the next person into your life, and now that person is the same thing, you have to turn it around and look at yourself and ask yourself.
I don't agree with you on that. I don't, and I notice you do that a lot. You like when people, like when we talk about somebody being abused and then they may get in another situation, you put the blame back on the person when the person could have been sitting in the house for 2 years, ain't bothered nobody, ain't did nothing, and went to the store get some groceries, and she met a man that helped assist with her groceries, and that's how they started talking, not knowing his background. Like, I'm very big on this right here. If I see you walk outside as beautiful as you are, and you spot Derek, because you're current here, I'm just going to use him as an example. You spot Derek and y'all get into conversation, you have no idea what their history is. You cannot tell me that you walking out the house going to the grocery store, you automatically attracted abusive men because of the way you look. We don't know what is going on, but what is a pattern? A pattern is, do we stay in that type of relationship once we found out what type of person that person is? I watched my mom get abused for many years. She was married to a narcissistic person. So, of course, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know the name of it actually until I got in the mental health field and dealing with the person I'm just talking about. But I don't think no man or woman walks out their house and meets somebody and automatically attract the same type of person. I just don't.
I think to a point, Lady is correct. You correct. You don't, at the same time, you're correct too. You don't control the people that come into your life, but when you get to the point that you allow them to your life, to your space, that's you, because that means you have not done enough research on that person to say, let me see what they really are. And again, and if they are bad as they say they are, and you allow them, you should ask yourself, okay, because good, that person displayed all those traits from the beginning. Mm-hmm. You just didn't see them. And you ask yourself, okay, why did I see it? And like now, after you've been through some things, now you even, no, believe it or not, there's some women, even though they know somebody that's narcissistic, because they're not healed yet, they still let a person get in their life, even after they see the trait. But you have gotten to a point now, you say, you know what? If I see the traits, no matter what, how many feelings I have for them, I'm out. I'm healed enough to say no. And I think that's what like the V is talking about, that
if you're not healed,
yeah,
then what's going to
happen
is, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that when you meet a person right off, nobody knows a person when they meet them right off the rip. This is why I keep telling women that they need to date, they need to have a conversation and not fall in love in a day. What I'm saying is, I have been in relationships where I have been with the same type of person.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm the common denominator. So either
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't healed, or
Mm-hmm.
something's going on with me that I keep going into this type of relationship
Like,
with this type of person. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that when you first meet a person, you know that they're going to punch you in your eye. But what I'm saying is, if you take the time out to have a conversation with the person, and once that first time they show you they got anger issues, because you should be so sensitive to, now you have been an abuse victim. Wait a minute. I see the anger. It's like your sensitivity gets stronger because you see the signs, you know the signs. It's certain people that if you've been with a narcissist and then you've been with another narcissist and you've been with another narcissist, you know the signs. So you don't have to keep going down the same road with the person. You now, if you see the signs and now you like, oh dang, I don't seen this, and you still get with that
oh,
person, it
right.
is something wrong with you. That's
Exactly.
all.
Well,
Do it.
you've heard me say many times. Again, you've heard me say many times. Be slow to hire and
Yeah.
quick to fire.
Fire.
Okay,
Well,
slow to
Exactly.
I
That's what
hire
growing up in the
and
home with my
quick to
mom who
fire.
was
You know,
abused. So
I
I,
had a
yeah.
situation. I had a situation with one of my church members years ago when I was pastoring, right? And she wanted to get married, and it would have been her fourth marriage, right?
Mm.
Would have been her fourth marriage. Not, not judging based on that, but I require people to go through pre-marriage counseling, right?
Right.
And the more marriages you've had, and none of them have been you because you've been widowed, you know, then the more required, right? So. And so she was like, I think she was like late 40s. She was like, I don't need that. I'm old enough. I'm mature. I was like, no, 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 you need it. And if I'm gonna do the wedding, then this is required. Well, she's like, and I was like, well, just consider it for a moment. Suppose these three previous marriages all went bad because it was 100% on the guy you were married to. Each of your marriage, and all of us know that rarely, sometimes it's the case where a marriage goes bad because it's 100% on one person, but usually it's a little more somewhere. Everybody has some complicity in how the
Right.
Yeah.
relationship goes south. But just for the sake of our discussion, say each marriage, it was 100%, it was all on them. At the very least, you need to check out how you picking people, because your picker is broken. Your
Your radar
picking
is messed up.
methodology is broken. So I would say, and I would agree with Lady V in this, if one finds oneself in sequential multiple relationships with the same kind of dysfunctional person, whether it's a narcissist or whatever, then you need to check yourself out, because when you're very clear and self-aware, and that kind of thing, then you decide what you're going to deal with, and you see things more clearly the more work you've done on yourself. Because
Right. I
oftentimes
totally
what
agree
happens
with
in
that.
relationships,
What I
folks are
don't agree
looking for
with
people,
is
looking
that
so hard
we're
that
out here
somebody's
choosing
going
them
to
like
give
we
them something and
picking
bring
corn or
something. They're
something. That
looking
ain't what
so
we're doing.
hard that they're
No, but that's
looking
not
that they
what
don't
that's
look
not
at
what I said.
themselves to
But
see.
that's
They're
how it
looking
came
so hard at
across.
somebody else to what they're going to deliver and what they're going to bring to them, that they're not looking at themselves. Does that make sense? Because it's like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this. This person is going to be part of my deliverance, but you need to check yourself out. And I'm not saying
Exactly.
you
And
in
that's
particular,
days for the
Silvadia.
women who get in those type of relationships and they
Hmm.
stay because they ass don't want to work and they want to live off that income of the man, or
I know
it's
women
either,
who make high six figures that have done that. It ain't because of the money
you
thing;
what,
it's
I
because of the
wasn't done.
emotional
I
need.
wasn't
It's
done.
because of the emotional
I
need.
wasn't done. I wasn't done. That's one of the reasons. I can't talk about a why a six-figure woman would stay, but I can tell you why my mom stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
again,
I'm just talking from experience. I'm not talking hypothetically. I'm talking from experience, and that's how I was able to identify my abuser. I watched my mom go through it. She stayed due to the money. She stayed because she didn't know what love was. It's many a reason why she pushed, and her abuse led to her children abuse.
And that sounds like it was out of brokenness, because
And
Mhm.
it was.
it wasn't
And
whole.
guess where the first brokenness, the healing started? It started with me, the baby
Yeah,
daughter. So
yeah,
when I got in a relationship, which is with the person that I was talking about, even though he fooled me for a year, I was able to identify that effectively and move on. And
Mhm.
the reason I was able to move on and nothing could hold me back. For one, my self-worth is number one. Number two, I was independent enough to support my own, so I didn't need to
Yeah.
stay in a relationship for money, and the list goes on. But if we're talking reality, there's a lot of women that stay with narcissistic men or
They
vice
have
versa
to.
because of circumstances of the way they grew up or the income. It just depends on the person.
But the thing is, what I was saying was, Savannah, you said that you were with that person for a year.
Mhm.
I said, once you have been with the person and now you're no longer with that person and you get with another person and they have the same traits, then you have to take a look at yourself and
Mhm.
ask yourself, why do
But-
I keep getting with this person? I didn't say the first time, because
So
the
I
first
can answer
time,
that question for you because I have dated since I left that guy. And that is why I'm single again, because this guy, another guy, sweet, everything that I prayed for on my list. if I got a list with 15 things on it, and instead of growing, seemed like it, but he was everything. But next thing you know, his true colors came out. So again, I'm single. So they tell you, because I was able to identify what those characteristics was, I immediately dropped it, even though I really truly liked this guy. So you
Good.
learn from your mistakes, or you learn from your what you chose to do in your past. But will I like a guy as much as I love myself? Not ever again. No.
And it happened. And I
But
think, yes, that's the point. Is me to be made that you got to get healed. Once you get healed, you're then able to say no. A lot of people would not have been able to do that. They wouldn't have been after they had developed feelings for that person, because most people make decisions based upon their emotions and not reality. But again, and then also then again, but again, you were healed and you say, you know what? I see these things I've experienced before. Even though I like this person, you know what? I'm letting it go. So that's good.
and
Yeah.
it's so easy for people who are not healed to draw to the same type of
Oh
person.
yeah.
If you find women who have stayed in abusive relationships, if they don't take a step back and they don't heal, they tend to get with another abuser because they're used to being abused. So it's not that they purposely go out there and meet a person that's abusive. That's what they normally draw. That's why I say you have to look at yourself, because a lot of times you're vulnerable. A lot of times it's emotions. A lot of times it's how you present yourself. I'm not saying that it's your fault. It's just that before you get into another relationship, after coming out of a dramatic relationship, you need to heal so that you're not constantly drawing the wrong people into your life.
I say this. I say healed and grow.
Yeah,
Healed
absolutely.
and grow, because as you grow, you tend to draw different things into your life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Last words, Joy.
Last final words. I would say that you have to you need to realize that energy is real.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't think in your mind you are drawing these people to you, your energy and everything that you're putting out in the world is coming back to you. A lot of times that happens. So you might really want to do a real assessment of yourself to see, have I gotten to the forgiveness part somewhat, but I haven't truly healed. Or just the bandage part of, the traumatic issues that may have happened. Like if you scrape your knee or break something, you might go get it fixed, but you can't just run back out there and go double dutching if you just got a knee surgery. Now, even though they're saying, okay, in a few weeks, you might be able to return to walking, but you have to follow the instructions to actually fully heal. Also, do a true assessment of yourself. So a lot of times we always look at other people and want to look at like, oh, I see your faults, I see this, I see that. And you may be a narcissist on the inside. So I think seriously, a lot of people they're like, oh, you have narcissism. You're like, you might want to look at yourself. So you have to do those necessary assessments on yourself as well. And if you are, then go and I say seek help, seek some type of therapy to see if you could work your way through it.
Reverend J.
I'll say just work on yourself. Get to know the people who's coming into your life, so that you are not a so you don't become a victim.
Silvadia.
I would say stop blaming everybody else for your flaws. Work on yourself. Healing starts with self. Therefore, don't be afraid to seek help from not only God, but your healthy friends, your healthy family. And don't think counseling is bad just because you're African American. Counseling therapy is a great part of healing. But love yourself enough to let go of things that are harming you physically, spiritually, and mentally.
Dr. Myron.
The truth, know the truth, be the truth, live it out, be your true self. And as the word says, know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Well, everybody, you have been watching Breaking the Silence. I'm so sorry we went 36 over our time, but this has been a really great
36
topic.
over? Wow.
Yes, we've been talking about the dark night, the life of a narcissist. You have been watching us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube in the Caribbeans. And thank you for all of our viewers for coming on and for your comments. We air every Tuesday at 6 o'clock sharp. And normally we're over at 7, but we went a little over today because of the topic. But we want to thank everybody again for coming. And I thank all of my hosts, Silvadia, Reverend J, Joy, Dr. Myron. Thank you so much for joining me today. But until next week, always remember, you have a voice. Bye, everybody.
See ya.